Welcome to Season 3 of the Hope Sessions podcast. This season's episodes will consist of artists and creatives that I enjoy supporting and talking to. They have both blessed and encouraged me simply by hearing about their creative journey and how the Lord is using them to make much of Him. Remember, hope is to life as oxygen is to the body. Enjoy the show. Guys, hello and welcome to another episode of the Hope Sessions podcast with me, Jerry D. This is season 2, and I do want to let you guys know that this evening's guest is actually someone I've discovered this artist maybe about a year and a half ago, randomly on Instagram. Funny enough, I think it was a sponsored ad, and I clicked that follow button because it's so easy for us to do, and I clicked it, and ever since then I've been following this guy's what he's been doing in terms of his music and journey, and it's a real honor to let you guys know that today's guest is Paul Hernandez. Paul, welcome to the podcast. How are you, my man?
I'm wonderful. Jerry, thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Awesome, my man. Listen, I want to just esteem you before we even get into this. Thank you for taking time out of your day to come and be a blessing to me and the people that are going to tune into this podcast, man. We're going to jump straight into it. This is the rapid fire round. Are you ready?
I'm ready, man.
Brilliant. Your favorite clothing brand?
Right now it is anything my wife makes me wear.
Brilliant. Your top 3 favorite artists currently?
Favorite artist, One Republic, For King and Country, and Esso from Lat Mode.
Brilliant. Yes, I'm aware of Esso. Brilliant. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Are you a morning or a night person?
Both, because I both.
Yeah.
I'm a more morning person. There you go.
Cool. Netflix or YouTube?
Netflix.
Spotify or Apple Music?
Spotify.
Yeah. Spotify just make it so easy. Everything just looks fresh, looks quirky, trendy, all that good stuff, right?
That's right. It's just, I think most artists just end up using that platform because it seems more accessible.
Yeah, facts. Your favorite movie or TV series that you've ever watched?
I love the Avengers series from Marvel.
Brilliant. Classics.
Yeah.
It's funny for me because most of the guys in my church, like that I serve with in ministry, they're all big into Marvel, dissecting the movies. And about a year and a half ago, I didn't have a clue what these guys were on about. I thought it was the biggest load of crap ever. And my youth pastor, Pastor Patrick, he just encouraged me. He said, have you actually even watched the movies? I was like, no, I've seen a couple of things on Instagram. It just tore me off it. And he said, no, watch them. And I began to watch them, and I now understand the hype. So I'm part of the bandwagon in a sense, you know?
Yeah, they're great. I really enjoy them. My wife loves them as well.
Brilliant, my man. Listen, that's the end of the rapid fire round. I move into a time now, man. This is Hope Sessions. So every guest I have on, I always think it's important to allow our audience or the listeners to kind of understand your story before we get into any of the dialogue. So would you, for the next 5 or 10 minutes or however long you feel yourself, just share your journey from growing up to what the Lord has done in your life, if that's cool?
Totally, man. Yeah, I guess I'll keep it long story short, maybe a little bit long. So, my journey's always, I've always sensed that my journey has been graced, even before coming to know God or have a relationship with Jesus. There's always been a lot of grace there, and I've started to recognize that as I've gotten older and I look back at some of my experiences and I see, wow, I was spared from a lot, or wow, I'm happy I didn't turn out that way. Just kind of those experiences have really shown me how evident God was in my life, even before I was really conscious about who He was, and made the intentional decision to follow Jesus. So growing up, I've always had the experience to go to, my mom sent my sisters and I to summer camp. I went for about 10 years in total, and that was a Christian Bible camp where I was exposed to being around other Christians and singing songs and just having this kind of utopian kind of experience, being away from the world and just being on this island. And and it was great. It was very set apart and godly.
Yeah.
And I definitely recognized the difference of coming back to a secular culture, and just the reality of how real God can be. So that was kind of growing up. That formed a lot of my early experience with how I experienced God, which a lot of it was emotional based. And I think a lot of us tend to first, associate God with our feelings in our beginning stages, which is fine. Yeah. As we learn. Those were some of my happiest times in my life. I had a lot of joy, and I know that God was present. Yeah. And I was still learning. I really didn't know what to know, and I didn't understand everything. Even though the gospel was given to me, I didn't understand it. Yeah. I agreed with it, but I didn't understand it, and I didn't understand what that meant for me in response. What was my response, and what did that mean I had to do? So it was easy to swallow for what I did know, but it was hard to respond to for what I didn't know, if that makes sense. So, and then kind of fast forward, going to high school, I always felt that urge to try to live out my Christianity and my faith, but over time it just kind of slipped away through my fingers and became challenging to live out, given my surroundings. Went through many experiences through that, and it was kind of this teeter-totter effect, which I know many can relate to as well. Yeah. I ended up in a relationship, and that went on for about almost 2 years. And it was at that point of transitioning out of that relationship that I knew God was calling me to really give myself to him. And that was actually through a friend that I had met in high school. We started having these spiritual conversations. Yeah. And, eventually the question of God and his reality and, his purpose for our lives and what is he calling us to, that conviction started to grow. Those conversations started to grow. And the inclination to, what am I doing with my life? What do I need to do? What should I let go of? Started to arise in me, and I knew that I couldn't continue with that relationship if I was serious about following God and obeying him. And so at that point, I let go of that relationship. It was really hard, really challenging time. You're young, you're a kid, I was probably 17, 18. And that was, you think that person's going to be your forever thing, and yeah. Whatever. And very well so they could be, but, there's a lot we need to learn, and God had something better in store for me. So as hard as it was, my world did flip upside down, but I knew that it was for the better. And that same week, I was with my friend, and we were at a festival, and we ended up running into this guy who was kind of evangelizing, and he was doing it in such a way that was very kind of entertaining in a sense. I know that wasn't the intention, but he invited us very warmly and into this church that was very musical driven, very artistic, very creative with the worship. They had DJs, they had rappers, they had free food. It was almost like a club. Okay. And we couldn't resist that opportunity. So we went to check it out. I ended up with connecting with 2 other rappers. They inspired me to start doing music. And then in general, overall, I got involved with the worship team, and I got to build relationships with them. I started working on my own music, releasing songs every week. And it was from that point I knew I had a God-given gift that God showed me to lead people, to encourage and influence them through music. Yeah. And really just find fulfillment through responding to that call and knowing, what you're supposed to do with the gift that God gave you. And so over that course of time, God blessed me with a beautiful wife that, I couldn't be more happier. You couldn't be more grateful. It's like, I always think of the scripture, he who finds a wife obtains favor from the Lord. And I'm like, wow, like this is definitely God given. It's like, I don't deserve you, but God provided. And so that means that he's given me favor, and that's amazing. And to have favor from God is so amazing. And so just over that course of time, I've been married for 5 years now. I've known my wife for about 10 years in total. Um, my experience with growing in Christ, definitely was a challenge. Just quickly, a period of time where I went through a lot of philosophical questioning, as I started to answer deeper questions.
Yeah.
And I had like these mental, I was almost like Thomas, doubting Thomas, trying to grasp and know all the answers. And I needed something physical. I needed some sort of affirmation from God.
Yeah.
I wouldn't believe unless he gave me some sort of answer, unless he split the sky for me, unless he revealed himself to me, unless I could touch him. Like, that was kind of my mindset. And it was almost like a child having a fit, and like, I need the answer the way I want it before I proceed. And so I went through a lot of that, and a lot of questioning why certain things happened in my life. Why was I made this way? Why do I struggle with anxiety in this way? Why do you allow me to have these thoughts? And I really was wrestling with God for a long time.
Yeah.
And it was through that process of daily surrender, daily trusting, daily surrendering my thoughts for what I know is true, surrendering my mindset for what the word says, just kind of that refinement over time, that I found, a stronger faith, stronger character, greater understanding of how God sees me. And, as those lies began to come off, I found just how beautiful God was, how much he was for me, how much he wasn't out to get me, how much he didn't condemn me, how much he just, perfect love casts out fear. And just really finding a real identity in who I am.
Yeah.
Gave me the confidence to continue to do music in a greater way, continue to not just live as a hermit or live as some sort of nomad, trying to escape from this world, but rather going into the world and being an influencer, being not necessarily a world changer, but salt and light.
Yeah.
That can really, really make a difference, that can really change people in a real loving, genuine, authentic way, because that's how God responded to me in the midst of everything that I did. So definitely a journey I'm obviously still growing on. I see how much I need grace every day. And I've definitely been so blessed to see how God has blessed me with so much, and it makes me so grateful to have everything that I have, because I know that I would never have anything that I have if it wasn't for him. So truly a blessing. And I want to continue to give that back to people, and to know Jesus more, and to, grow in his love. I think we can all agree, just with the way that the world is right now, we need a savior. And, I'm so grateful that God gives us the opportunity to really show him to other people. So yeah, that's my journey. And, I love music. I've always had a creative passion and love collaborating with people. And, one of my favorite scripture is delight yourself in the Lord and he'll give you the desires of your heart. Psalm 37:4. I delighted myself in him, and he gave me everything that I truly desire, that truly is fulfilling, music, a beautiful wife, just, an understanding of who I truly am in him, and just opportunities that come along the way like that. So there's just a lot of truth, a lot of fulfillment in that.
Brilliant. I love that, Paul. Honestly, man, I was just enjoying hearing your story, because I haven't actually heard your story, so I wasn't really too familiar with how you came to faith in Christ. And I'm always refreshed, because every time I hear someone's story about how they came to faith in Jesus, it's never the same. Your background is quite different than mine, and vice versa. And it's beautiful to see how he brings us all into the one family from a variety of different backgrounds, to show the uniqueness of the Christian message, which is there's
Right.
no Jew nor Gentile, Greek or whatever, and there's none of this ethnic divide and stuff in the family of God. Everyone is brought into the one family to show just the beautifulness of the gospel. I think that's powerful, man. So thank you so much for sharing your story with me.
You're welcome. Yeah, pleasure, man. I love that.
And the next part, man, is, so now that we know your story, I love going into this next part, which is simply just a Q&A segment, just for me and for our audience, just to get to know you better. So I've written down some questions, and the first one I have is, so if people don't know, you're a Christian rapper, or a rapper that's a Christian, however people want to phrase that. But the question I have is, how did you start out as an artist? Like, what were your beginning days look like?
Well, to be honest, I actually started rapping in church. And it's interesting how that process worked, because I've always had a creative musical kind of background, as far as being um, inspired to make melodies and to make beats and everything like that. But I never knew it, like, that I would be an artist at all. When I came to church, I was given that platform,
Sure.
through worship. So that's kind of all where my grassroots of music and inspiration comes from. But interestingly enough, the more I pursued music, the more, my natural tendency as a creation, modeling the creators, to expand, to color out of the lines, to break out of the mold, just to explore and be creative. And so, just my palette is really, I touch many, I touch many aspects of music, dip my toes in different genres, do a lot of crossover, themes with my music. And I think that, I can glorify God in so many ways, and to just glorify him in a way that seems like the only way, or the most tangible way, or the way that most people seem to be doing it, is somehow very limiting in one way, especially when your heart and your spirit is yearning for something even more. Or I don't know, that's just my thought, but that's kind of where I've been led. And I've been growing from there, from every song, from every experience. It's the possibilities are endless.
Beautiful. And even on that, right? So yeah, we know you're an artist, and obviously there's a creation, a creative process in that with each song, each project. And I suppose, like, because what does your creative process look like? Could you sit down in one sitting and write a whole song? Is it a period of weeks, or how does your inspiration come? That sort of thing. How does that
Mm.
look for you?
Yeah, I find that I really try to capture the inspiration that comes spontaneously when, if I can, I'll have a voice note on my phone, I'll record that, try to get that recorded, and then I'll revisit that again and say, hey, I remember that melody, and then I'll build off that, fill it in with words. If I'm listening to a beat, maybe a production already, I'll write around that. But generally, will take, it could be anywhere between a sitting, if it's really flowing, to maybe a week, or maybe more, depending on the kind of song, depending on kind of the season I'm in. But yeah, I feel like good songs can take time to refine, and some days are just easier to write than others.
Yeah, brilliant. I love it. I love that, because your creative process is much different than mine. Sometimes for me, it could take a matter of weeks, sometimes months. There could be a theme in my head, and I'm just trying to structure in my head before I even write. How do I want to write it? And then obviously, because I know from listening to your music, there's a couple of things that really strike me. It's yes, it's the flow, yes, it's the content, but I'm very impressed with the wordplay, just your ability to take people on a journey in terms of stories, or if you're breaking down a topic or sharing a part of your story, you really have a uniqueness, definitely, to your music, man, just of how from the get-go, regardless of the music, it's always it's catchy, but it catches people instantly, no matter what the song's about. So I'm very impressed with, just like you said, you've got diversity. Like, I can't listen to all your songs and say there's two songs the same. There's such a variety, a wide variety, in fact, of the music, and I'm really impressed by that.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that.
Yeah. And even, man, for you, so you're based in Canada, am I correct?
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, as a Christian artist out there, I know we in Court Church, we here in Ireland, we had Chope. You probably heard of him, right?
Yeah. I didn't know he came there. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, he's actually been to our church. I think it was possibly 2016, 2017, I believe it was. He came over with I think his DJ or something. His name was Remus. I might have got that
Okay.
wrong. But what's the music scene like for you out in Canada, like right now as an artist? Like, do you have a favorite place where you like to perform? Is it coffee shops, or what does it look like post COVID for you with performing?
Yeah. Well, to be honest, like Chope, he's from, as far as I know, he's from Toronto. So he's
Okay.
from the East Coast.
Yeah.
And there's a major music scene out there. That the music scene there is much more vast and, networked, as opposed to Vancouver.
Sure.
There is a music scene here, just on a different scale. And honestly, to be honest, I find myself it's funny, as a Canadian artist, I actually have a much greater network in the US, and I've actually performed more places, I think, in the US, maybe almost the same in the US than I have in Canada. And that being just the way my relationships have been built over the years, and just kind of the opportunities that have come up. And so I'm really hoping. It's really hard to say right now. I think I've been trying to do my best with I've been doing a lot more networking with Canadian artists,
Yeah.
Canadian magazines, and I have done some venues here for sure. So that's definitely something I'm looking to do more. And so as I've released more music, I really feel I can definitely, bring that to the table when I do reach out and do some more shows here in Vancouver. So, yeah.
Brilliant. I love it. And even for you, man, there's another thing that I've noticed from just following you on Spotify and on Instagram and just watching you release songs and stuff like that. There's one thing that really strikes me. You've got a very strong presence on Spotify. I mean, I was listening to your music the last number of days in preparation for this episode, and you have, according to Spotify, with the algorithms, there's 16,000 monthly listeners on your Spotify, which is, to me, is incredible to even see that. And the one thing that I've noticed with you is you seem to direct more of your music just in terms of singles or projects. Do you really do any music videos, or would you rather just stick with the lane of releasing singles on Spotify? Do you think that's kind of your niche in terms of an artist?
Honestly, I definitely would want more music videos. I actually shot one this year,
Right.
and just kind of it's in draft mode right now. It's being finalized.
Okay.
So I'm excited for that. I think visuals are healthy, for people to see your face and to get to know your story, see your creativity, through a visual as opposed to just a song. So it's a good way to supplement a song. It's awful, like the way that music has been nowadays. I've been wanting to do more, kind of visuals, because they're much more accessible, especially with our cell phones, with the apps that we have nowadays. I think many artists, especially during COVID, have been leaning more towards how to create videos. And I think the challenge has been, how do I make a video that won't make me look amateur, but still hold up to the give the song the celebration it deserves, and really kind of complement it in a way that doesn't take away from it. And I think that's been something I personally wrestle with, because I'm like, okay, well, I made this great song. I don't want to make a crappy video, but at the same time, I don't also want to pay, a couple $1,000s for one right now, at least. But I think that gap has been bridged because people are really connecting with artists through really homemade kind of stuff, really IG lives, and that's something that I definitely want to immerse myself in a bit more. So as far as the release strategy, people just want a lot of music and they want it fast. So I think it's a good way to be consistent and still keep the creative juices flowing. And if I want to pop in a visual here and there, I definitely will. So
Brilliant. Because even on that note, right? So you're an independent artist, right? And I suppose, what is it like for you being an independent artist now in the music scene that you're based in? Because I know you're very involved in a lot of your own production, a lot of your, you promote your own stuff. You're very big on publications and stuff like that. So what is it like for you, man, just being an independent artist in the time that we live in?
I don't know how it would be otherwise, to be honest. I've always been an independent artist.
Sure.
And I've been doing all the legwork ever since. And so I honestly just don't know how it would be to not be one. I think that this time has opened up a lot more opportunity to explore different mediums to grow as an independent artist, right? Having to do IG lives, having to fund yourself, for not doing gigs, connecting with people in different ways has definitely been helpful and challenging. But I think that at the same time, growing a team and kind of allocating the workload would help. Definitely wouldn't spread me thin all the time, because it is a lot of work, right? I'm doing the mixing. I did just recently hire a mastering engineer. I'm doing the video creative editing, the lyric videos, article writing, all this stuff. So it does take a lot of time. And I think it would be beneficial. I think I would have more energy to pour into songs. You know, so right now I'm just I'm grinding it out. I've always been doing that. So I think that's just kind of been my mentality, is that it's going to take a lot of work. It's worth it. I've seen the fruit from it. I'm happy that I've had this experience to work the way that I do, so that I can have that experience, and that, you know, if I'm given anything less, then at least I'm prepared for it, you know, and I can still have the same mindset behind everything I do.
That's brilliant. Because in a way, man, the fact that you're independent and obviously you're doing a lot of this stuff yourself, it kind of, well, not kind of, it actually does, it adds a lot of value to you as an artist to show that you're able to branch off into these other areas. And it's like anything, the more you do, the more you work your creative muscle, it kind of becomes easier to kind of experiment with, get used to and stuff like that. So it's really cool in that respect. But even to touch, man, I know me and you have spoken back and forth over voice notes on Instagram. There's one thing that I really respect about you as an artist, and you're, in fact, you're the only artist I know that is very big on reaching out and getting publications on blogs, reaching out to different mediums, and just beginning to, I suppose, push your own music a lot further than most people do. Most people will usually just release a video or an album and kind of just ask people to share it. Now that's great, that's common to do that, but you really have a real great energy about you, how you're able to just, you're big on publication. And do you want to maybe briefly touch on that? Because I think it would be really important for people to hear from your perspective the importance of publication and why it's necessary, and how it's helped your career.
Right. So, you know, I think the more information you have about somebody, the more credibility that person has, like, you have about them. And the more you'll trust them, you know, not even just as an artist, but as a brand, because at the end of the day, you're an artist, you're a musician, but you're also a business, you're a brand. You're going to have social perception, and people are going to make a judgment based on what you do, you know, what your, you know, what your Google search looks like, what your, you know, your social perception looks like when somebody looks at your Instagram page, right? It's a first appearance, it's your handshake. And, you know, one of the great things about publication is that it touches all these areas, right? The more publication you have, the stronger Google search you're going to have, the more brand awareness you're going to have. You know, your search authority overall is going to rank higher, because there's these notable outlets that are mentioning your name. They're talking about you. They're talking about your music. You know, that's going to really, really help you and add value to what you're already doing. You're working on music anyway, so why wouldn't you want it to be heard by more people? Why wouldn't you want it to be circulating online and getting exposure? But also, all these articles that you're published in are going to give you add a lot of weight to what you're doing, right? It's going to build your Google real estate. So when somebody types in your name, and like I said, sees you featured on multiple sources, that's instant social proof for you. That's instant credibility. It's better than saying, hey, my name is you know, Joe Johnson, and I, forgive me if there's a guy named Joe Johnson, but you know, hey, my name is Joe, I'm featured, go listen to my music on Spotify, check me out on Instagram. How many times do you hear somebody say that, right? It's better to say, hey, my name is Joe Johnson, I've been an MC for 10 years, I've been featured in Yahoo Lifestyle, I had an article written on Forbes, and I've been mentioned on entrepreneur.com. I also recently got featured in Double XL magazine, where they shared my new music video. I'm interested in booking a gig with you guys, and you know what I mean, with some other notable artists that maybe he featured with. That's instant leverage. That's instant credibility. So, you know, what makes more sense to you, and who would you want to go check out their music, right? And so that's just kind of the gist of it. And at least you can surround and supplement your song, not only just with a single or a visual, not only just with a visual, but also with written content behind it that really allows people to engage with it more. And it's published online, right? It's going to be permanently online, and really just shows that people are serious. You're more serious about your craft beyond the music itself. So hope that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense, man. And I definitely wanted to ask you that question, because that's something that I admire from afar. I mean, I'm over here in Ireland, and I see that's a trait that I see about you, just how you're very intentional about getting your music into as many platforms, into as many areas, talking circles as possible, man. And the next question I have is, it may seem generic, but I always like asking this question: is not even in music, but just in life in general, man, what is the best piece of advice that you've been given?
Biggest advice is to not overthink it. Like just don't overthink. You know, don't live off your emotions.
Yes.
Like I heard a quote say, recently, like don't wait for the emotion to come. Do the motion, and the emotion will follow. Right. So it's really kind of helpful to, it's just like faith. It's not a feeling. It's the substance of things hoped for.
That's right.
And sometimes you don't always feel hopeful, but just do what you know is right, and that will be, that revelation might come later. So I find that, consistency, hard work, and sacrifices where they need to be made, will always be fruitful and build your character, and the results will always reward you in the end.
Yeah, that's great. And the last question I have, man, for us in this podcast episode, and this is my favorite question. I ask every one of my guests this because I love hearing the response. If you could have dinner with three people, either dead or alive, who would it be and why? That sounds
Wow,
like a mouthful, huh?
that's a hard. You want me to answer that in like 10 seconds? Okay, well, the first person would be Jesus.
Brilliant.
He's alive,
Yeah.
so I think it'd be awesome to have
Yeah.
like a last supper, like just like
Sure.
a last. Um, who else? Who else? Man, you really put me on the spot. Um, okay, so him. They have to be real though, right?
Preferably, yeah, dead or alive,
Okay.
but they existed at one point or another.
Somebody comes to my mind. I think The Rock would be kind of cool. Dwayne Johnson would be kind of cool to have dinner with him.
Yeah.
He seems like a great guy. And who's another guy? I think I would like to. I was gonna say, I can't remember his name. Hold on. Somebody I could learn from. Can't remember his name. So I got two people. I need one more. One more.
Yeah.
Who's somebody I could have dinner with, whether dead or alive? How about C.S. Lewis?
Yes.
C.S. Lewis, Jesus, and Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
That sounds like a very interesting dinner conversation slash dialogue slash
Yeah,
discussion for sure, man.
yeah, that'd be pretty. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Listen, I want to just thank you. We've come to the end of our podcast episode, but I want to just before I allow you to have a final word with our audience, I do want to thank you, man. Just on a personal note, offline, me and you have been having chats, and you've been very, very helpful to me with some feedback, with some direction, and how I could better promote my content. I mean, we've had conversations like that back and forth for the last number of maybe months at this point, but I do want to thank you for that because I haven't forgot what you've said, and I've been acting upon the advice you've given me, and it's been very helpful. And even for me, man, I'm going to give it over to you now. For our audience listening, maybe they've tuned into this podcast on YouTube or Apple or Spotify or wherever. Where could they get your music? How could they support you? Do you want to maybe just encourage them in that way?
Yeah, guys. First of all, thanks for tuning into the podcast. If you want to check out my music, you can just, if you have Spotify or if you have iTunes, any streaming platform you're using, just type in Paul Hernandez. If it's a weird guy from Mexico, that's not me. I'll be from Canada, so just type in Paul Hernandez. You should find it, and then paulhernandezmusic.com. It'll all be there. Or if you use Google, Paul Hernandez Music, all the information's there. Thanks again so much.
Yeah, brilliant, my man. Listen, thank you so much for joining us. Guys, for those of you that have tuned in, thank you so much for taking up of some of your time of your day just to tune in and to listen to this dialogue. I trust that it was helpful to you. I trust that it was encouraging. And I hope that I've actually introduced you to an artist that you're going to go check out because he's impacted my life. He's encouraged me. I actually listen to his music quite regularly. I've got a couple of playlists on my phone that I listen to. And If you don't believe me, just check out my Spotify. But listen, guys, forget about me. Go check it out on Spotify. Give this guy a follow. Support what he's doing. And if you like it, tell a friend to tell a friend. And for this podcast as well, guys, listen, share with your friends, your family. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And tune in again next week for another episode of the Hope Sessions podcast with your boy, Jerry D. Take care. God bless. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of the Hope Sessions podcast. Why not share it with your friends and family and even on your social media platforms? Don't forget to leave a review because this greatly helps to spread the word about the podcast. And remember, hope is to life as oxygen is to the body. Till next time, take care and God bless.